All right, everyone. Hello. My name is Devin Hogan. I am the Minneapolis DFL chair. I have had the pleasure to be your Minneapolis DFL chair since the year 2018. And as someone who has voted Democratic their entire life, a farmer who has a cooperative market garden on Nicollet Avenue, and as a laborer who serves as the parliamentarian of my union's local, I'm very proud to call myself a DFLer. Also, during this Pride Month, I am super proud to be out as a queer and non-binary person. Representation matters, and I see you. As your party chair, I've helped spearhead the effort to reinvent the caucuses from scratch this year. And I do want to give a special shout out and kudos to the Minneapolis DFL Central Committee who's helped put on the work this year. We've more than doubled our caucus turnout from 2017, and to my knowledge, 2021 has been the best attended caucus in decades, with the notable exception of 2016. I also want to shout out to the 60 different participating campaigns who have helped us shape the rules and spent a lot of time together since last October. And also a special shout out to our ward committees who are helping to put on the events today. The purpose of these events is for you to get to know the candidates better, and to give the candidates an opportunity to have more time to explain why they're asking for your support. We sent a form out for delegates to submit questions, and these questions will be used for the candidate forum later in today's event. Now, endorsement is my favorite part of all the work that we do as Minneapolis DFL. It's Democrats agreeing that this person is the person who most supports our values as a Democrat. And so in a big tent, there's always going to be disagreements, but endorsement emphasizes coming together. I think that's pretty cool, and I think that's something we should celebrate. Now, my second favorite part is I get to flex on how your ward has influenced my life in Minneapolis and how it's meaningful to me. And that's very easy because I've lived in Minneapolis for 11 years now, and for 10 and a half of those years was in Ward 8 in the Lindale neighborhood. I have a market garden, as I mentioned, it's on Nicollet Avenue. I owned a house there that was an intentional community. And my time in Lindale has really, is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now, is really getting to know my neighbors and feeling connected to my community through those two activities. Now I'm on to the contractually obligated part to pass the hat. Minneapolis DFL is 100% volunteer run and sustained on small dollar donations. Right now, our average donation is $22, $23, and every little bit helps us do the work. You can donate any amount at minneapolisdfl.org/donate. That's minneapolisdfl.org/donate. And if you haven't given to a political candidate or party this year, you can get up to $50 of your donation refunded via the Minnesota Political Contribution Refund Program. Finally, I just wanted to mention that we've had a lot of excitement and people filling out their ballots. As of about 24 hours ago, 65% of all delegates have completed their ward ballots. But I do want to remind you that you can vote as many times as you'd like up until 11:59 p.m. on Tuesday. And Minneapolis DFL will only take your most recent vote as your final vote. So on that note, thanks again, everyone. I will pass it along to our Ward 8 team, Josh and David. So off to you guys.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming to the Ward 8 convention. We will have a speech coming up from Andrea Jenkins, who's just joined us, and we will then have some questions for Andrea, and we then, after that, will, I have a video from Stephanie Musich that I will play. We can also have, if Raisa would like to speak as well, we can make time for that. Does that sound good? Should we go ahead with Andrea?
Hey, Andrea, can you hear us? Not getting any audio from Andrea right now. Send her a message letting her know that.
Andrea, we can't hear you and we're getting some feedback. Is it possible maybe we could log off and log back in? I don't understand what the problem might be.
Okay, we're working with Andrea, and while we're doing that, then why don't we do the park board candidates? And I see 3 of them here, and we have Stephanie Musich's video. So would you like to play the video first, Josh?
Sure, I will give that a shot here.
We'll keep working with Andrea.
While we're waiting, I do want to mention to everyone on the call, the park board races are on your city ballot, and your city ballot will be coming out on Wednesday. But the reason why we have our district candidates here is because they're very localized to the specific wards. So we've got candidates from both Park Board District 6 and District 5, which Ward 8 covers.
Yep. How's the video? Should we go to actual human beings, Josh?
Sure, if Rice is available to speak, otherwise I can play the video here.
Sure. Let's if you're ready to punch the video, let's punch the video.
Hello, I'm Stephanie Musich, your 5th District Park Commissioner. My approach to politics is one of public service, and
Man, we are getting the full Zoom experience.
I tried to reset.
I feel okay if y'all are okay seeing what's going on with Stephanie's video. If we want to roll over to the in-person.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's see if we can. Oh, well, are we
working now?
These decisions with and for my constituents by listening to them, researching issues before the board, and balancing people's needs and desires in a way that achieves consensus. When conflict trumps consensus, as it has with the flooding of the Hiawatha Golf Course, I try to find a balance with our communities by listening to both residents and the advice of scientists and experts. We need a park system that is adapting to our changing climate and is sustainable for the long term, for our children and our grandchildren. My focus will always be to make the best long-term decisions for the park system and the residents of Minneapolis. Our vibrant communities must be part of the decision-making process, especially those who haven't always been at the table deciding the future of our parks. I believe commissioners should not just respond to constituents. That's why I work to engage residents and to connect them with resources, information, programs, and planning processes that are revitalizing our parks. In 2017, the Park Board began implementing the 20-year neighborhood park plan to invest $11 million a year in increased maintenance, rehabilitation, and capital investments in neighborhood parks. This criteria-based system focuses on racial and economic equity to ensure capital investments are targeted first on the parks and communities where they are needed the most. While most investments to date have been made in North, Northeast, and Central Minneapolis, parks in the 5th District are starting to see projects get underway. This year, implementation work is being done from Pearl, McRae, Keewaydin, and Sibley Parks master plans, and information about staying abreast of this work can be found in my newsletter. I need your support to continue this work. If you have any questions about me or my campaign, please reach out directly or go to www.musichforparks.com. Thank you.
All right, Rice, are you ready to speech? Quick talk.
Hey, this is Risa. Was that a call for me?
Yep.
That's great. I'm going to go right ahead if that's okay. Hey, so my name is Risa Husted, and I appreciate you all taking the time out of your day to hear from us all today. I am calling from the Kingfield Farmers Market, so if you hear a little background noise, it's just our neighbors enjoying the outside. I use pronouns like she and they, and I was born and raised in South Minneapolis to a family of small business owners. I'm a dog parent, and I currently serve as the Capital Long Range Improvement Committee's representative for Ward 11. I hold degrees in outdoor leadership, therapeutic recreation, and wilderness emergency response. And I've worked in the outdoor industry for over a decade. Being outside with my community is where I feel most at home. My top priorities for our parks include accessibility, sustainability, safety, and building more robust programming. I'm a leader in the outdoor industry, but the work that made me want to run for the park board was spending the last year here in Ward 8, connecting unhoused neighbors in Martin Luther King Park with the supports and services they needed and deserved. We built a community together, and it reinforced in me my lifelong belief that the best thing about the parks in Minneapolis has always been what they can do for and mean to people. I waited for the right candidate to jump in this race with the vision I think is so desperately needed on our park board. A vision of what our parks can do for our communities, not just what we can preserve about them. Through the urging of the incredible women I worked with in the encampment this last year, I decided that if we wanted that vision on the park board, I would have to be the one to bring it. I don't want to talk about our parks being the best in the country if they aren't the best for everyone. I do want to talk about how enriching park programming can make our communities more vibrant, our parents feel more supported, and our children grow up with more access to nature, healthy peer relationships, and mentors. I do want to talk about what these green spaces can do to Minneapolis and to help us become carbon neutral so the city can lead the way nationally on climate change. I do want to talk about how accessible parks means more inclusive communities for all our neighbors. And I do want to talk about the important role our parks play in the lives of people who do not have safe spaces to call home. This is the work at the core of who I am, and it's why I decided to run. I invite you to join me in having these conversations, and I hope to earn your first choice support to be your next commissioner for Park Board District 6. Thank you.
Thank you. Barb, are you ready to go next?
You're muted, Barb.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Hello, Ward 8, and thank you for being here and doing your homework. I appreciate it. I'm running for the park board because I believe we need leaders focused on the environment, kids, and the long-term sustainability of our park system. I first jumped into this race out of environmental concerns for our creeks, rivers, lakes, and trees. We have an epidemic of invasive species and loss of habitat, and the effects of climate change are bringing increased flooding and heat islands to Minneapolis, especially this week. The park board needs to own its responsibility to protect natural resources, restore water quality, and refrain from developing or mowing every square foot of parkland. We must address environmental injustices through data, listening, and resource reallocation. Secondly, I'm focused on the tremendous capacity that I see in our neighborhood parks to serve youth and really strengthen communities. I'm advocating specifically for an increase in funding for neighborhood park programs. We can activate our neighborhood parks through the 49 recreation centers with more high-quality programs and staff and programs that are accessible to all kids. Neighborhood parks can be the glue that make our communities safer, stronger, and healthier. Third and finally, stewardship and maintenance of our regional parks. These are different from neighborhood parks. Regional parks include the chain of lakes, Minnehaha Creek, Theodore Wirth, and other attractions, and all are showing signs of neglect and deferred maintenance. Because these special places are enjoyed by people from all across the state, I'll be a fierce advocate for increased state funding to operate and maintain them so that they are again the pride of Minneapolis. My professional background prepared me well for this role. I've served as communications director for 3 state agencies. I've testified at the legislature several times, navigated contentious political issues, and managed budgets and large staffs. I've worked for boards, served on boards, and chaired boards, and I'm endorsed by the DFL Senior Caucus. So as your commissioner, I'll be dedicated to equity, collaboration, kids, and to you because these are your parks. I'm Barb Schlafer, and I humbly ask for your first choice vote for Park Board District 6. Thanks.
Thank you, Barb.
Thanks, Barb. Kathy.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, Ward 8. My name is Kathy Abeni, and I'm running for Park Board District 6. Thank you for being delegates, and thank you for participating in this important process. Throughout this process, I have tried to speak with as many of you as possible, and frankly, I've been blown away. Minneapolis, the city that I love, is filled with beautiful people who care about each other, our city, and our parks. Speaking with all of you has reminded me why I love it here so much. Being a Democrat has always been an important part of who I am. To me, the Democrats are the party of ideas, the party of equal rights and fairness, of justice and peace. To put it boldly, I've always thought of us as the party with the moral authority. But in recent times, that moral authority has turned to moral outrage, and I admit it's been hard. And so the question is, what are we going to do about it? In all my discussions in all the corners of the district, it's noticeably clear that people are ready for progress and ready to make sure our city moves forward with the fairness that we know is at the heart of our shared values. Another thing is that's clear is that we'll need leaders who can unite us and lead us to a future where every one of us can prosper. We need leaders who will be committed to working together on solutions, and we need leaders who will be willing to say yes, but will also have the courage to say no when they need to. As a civil engineer who's been working for decades in the public sector, I'll be ready on day one to grapple with the business of the Park Board. I will be committed to following the mission of the Park Board and making our parks and recreation programs better and more equitable than they've ever been. If we do this right, there will be more opportunities for kids and young people to develop and explore and to grow up and into their own. There will also be more access for people of all ages and abilities. If we do this right, we'll be stewarding our natural resources, progressing on climate change and preserving habitat. If we do this right, we'll be leaving a legacy like the one that we inherited, one of the greatest park systems in the country, a system that holds all of this amazing public land in the commons for each and every one of us to use and enjoy and be part of. This is for the common good, and it connects us. I won't perform or pander because what's at stake is too important. I'm stepping up as a citizen who believes in the future of Minneapolis, and I know I can help lead us there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. Let's see, Andrea, are you able to speak now?
Andrea Jenkins? Are you talking to me?
Yep. Yeah.
Great. Sounds great.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good to go.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Zoom Life, where we have, we never know what technology will give us, but I had to reboot, and it seems like I am back and all is going well. My name is Andrea Jenkins, and I am standing for re-election to be the Ward 8 City Council member. You know, I do, before I just jump into my remarks, I like to acknowledge a land acknowledgement. Whenever I talk to groups of folks around the city, and you know, fortunately for me, I get a chance to talk to people all around the country. But you know, wherever we are in Minnesota, Arizona, Kansas, Oklahoma, Montana, Georgia, Texas, Florida, it doesn't matter. We are standing on native soil, stolen land. And here in Minnesota, we know that we are on Dakota and Lakota land, Ojibwe, Anishinaabe land. And so we want to make sure we acknowledge that truth, as well as acknowledge that we are in a country that was built primarily on stolen labor. Stolen labor, which my ancestors, African enslaved people, contributed to the founding of this country. And so just want to make sure we take that acknowledgement. I want to thank all of you at the DFL committee for your hard work and efforts to put this event together. I want to thank all of the Ward 8 delegates who are, you know, staying engaged in this process, even throughout a pandemic and throughout all of the racial reckoning that we have had in this city and in this current cycle. You know, unfortunately, Ward 8 has become known to the entire world, as it were, for the murder of George Floyd. And that has brought us a significant spotlight and a significant concern about the intersection at 38th and Chicago. But I personally, you know, want to think broader than that. I know that, you know, there are many activists who are at the intersection of 38th and Chicago, and they are calling for justice. And I 100% support that. But I believe, as I stated when I ran for office in 2017, that we have to bring equity to the entirety of this city. And certainly, you know, as a representative of Ward 8, I want that to begin here and to benefit this community, but it has to be broader. It has to encompass the entire city and African Americans and people of color throughout this city. We need to have equity, full inclusion, and support. And to that end, when George Floyd was murdered, I immediately called for declaring racism as a public health crisis. That ordinance, that resolution was adopted by my colleagues as well as Hennepin County. And I think the state of Minnesota is definitely considering it. And so, as is the city of St. Paul and several communities throughout the country, you know, and I know that there's been some questions about what does that mean? That means we are going to really take the opportunity to get at the root causes of why we have police brutality, why we have the deep inequities in housing and employment and access to healthcare and just the high crime rates and high imprisonment rates that impact the Black community, as well as the high levels of police brutality that is in our communities, primarily Black and Brown communities. And so, you know, that is certainly one step in that process. You know, it's been my deep honor to represent Ward 8 over these past 3.5 years, even with the murder of George Floyd. It has, you know, we've done so many things. We passed the 2040 comprehensive plan, which seeks to redress some of the inequities that have been so present in our society, redlining, creating zoning policies that shut people out. We think that the 2040 plan is going to and has been designed to pull people in, to increase home ownership and development opportunities in Black and Brown communities. We passed a 10-year transportation action plan, which seeks to bring equity to our transportation system and the various modes of transit and transportation that we need to have in our communities. I advocated strongly for the D-line for several years, and proud to say that we received the $55 million to complete that project. And hopefully we can get that on the way, knowing that we need to do a special design at 38th and Chicago where the D-line will run through. You know, we have created cultural corridors throughout the city, which really helped us to deal with the pandemic when it hit, because we then knew where we could, where the help was most needed in low income, communities of color, businesses of color, and we directed the meager funds that we had at that time, $5 million, specifically and directly to those communities, including along 38th Street, which is a cultural corridor as well. You know, it has been a challenging term, but I believe that showing up, listening to neighbors, talking with neighbors is how we get through this and how we come out better on the other side. The movement that sparked the George Floyd has that has been sparked by the murder of George Floyd, I should say, has really created a sea change in America. I'm not sure if we would have the president that we have right now had it not been for the protesters and really taken that opportunity to enroll and enlist people in the electoral process. And that work started right here at 38th in Chicago, right here in Ward 8. And so, you know, the conversation that started around defund the police, which I stood on stage on June 7th, which is tomorrow, with my colleagues, 8 of my colleagues in Powderhorn Park. And that started a conversation. And what does defund the police mean? It means refunding our communities. It does not mean completely obliterating a police force in our society. I believe in many African-American communities, and I think most people believe that we need to have some way to enforce laws in our society if we are to be a nation of laws. And so, you know, that is the work that we will be pursuing in this next term. It's a 2-year term because of redistricting. But I think that we can get a lot of really amazing and positive work done if we work together. And so I'm seeking your support and the DFL endorsement to continue to do that work and lead on the Minneapolis City Council.
Thank you, Councilmember Jenkins. Some delegates sent in a few questions to ask you, ask all the candidates, but it's you. Do you have a moment to answer some of those?
Certainly, we'll try to answer as many as we can.
Okay. The first question is, do you support changing the charter to create a new Department of Public Safety that will include law enforcement and expanded violence prevention efforts, mental health crisis response, housing and addiction support, victim services, and more to address the full safety needs of our city?
Should I just give the succinct answer?
Sure.
Yes.
Whatever answer you'd like. Okay. You do support that that charter amendment or that charter change. Thank you. The second question is, what involvement did you have in the dismantling of George Floyd Square? What, if any, actions did you do to prevent it? Will you commit to meeting the 24 demands of the people who own that space? And this question is from Mike Trust.
Wow, David, it looks like you're sitting in some pretty high test air conditioning going on over there.
Just my windows are open. That's it right now, so I'm good.
Nice. All right. Natural air conditioning. First of all, let me state, I have been very vocal and very consistent that I believe we need to reconnect 38th in Chicago or George Floyd Square to the rest of the city. George Floyd Square has not been dismantled. The city, led by a group called Agape, which is a group of Black men who have lived in this community for many years. Many of them are former gang members, but they have decided to turn their lives around and become a part of building our community instead of tearing it down. And you know, they're on the street. They have offices right in the square, 38th in Chicago, 37th in Chicago. And you know, they've been talking to neighbors, talking to businesses, and felt like Thursday morning was the moment after the trial, which was one of the 24 demands. And I will note that another one of the 24 demands was to support and hire Agape. That is not something that the city came up with. That's a specific demand within the 24 demands. And so they determined that Thursday was a day to try to begin that phased reopening, reconnection of 38th and Chicago. At some point, we have to do that. We cannot wall off a part of the city that is such an integral part to the African American community. We must support those businesses, those Black and brown businesses that are trying to survive there. And to that end, we offered $50,000 loans, forgivable loans to those businesses in the area to be able to survive through this challenging time period. But you know, we must reopen. So I am interested and willing and have been committed to meeting those 24 demands. But you know, I'm trying to create a scenario where this does not feel like a hostage situation. Like I gotta pay you some money to have our streets back. That is a concept that is as un-American as anything to me. And I think we gotta work together. So I am planning meetings, conversations, even as we speak. I'm texting with some of those folks that are out there that are holding it down, to talk about how we can work together to bring our community back together and really begin the healing process. To continue to stay out in the middle of the street continues to traumatize Black people, the Black people that live in there, that have their businesses there, that are trying to take care of their families and survive. And that, to me, is not about Black Lives Matters. When we continually disrupt their ability to make their lives better, I just can't support that. What I do support is working together to bring justice to this community. I will stand on that as long as I can. In fact, many of the 24 demands I personally have already committed to through the development with all 4 neighborhoods of the 38th Street Drive plan, which includes home ownership opportunities, building a community co-op, building a center for racial equity. Anybody who has ever talked to me about anything, they always hear about my dream, my vision for a center for racial healing at 38th in Chicago. That has been my vision before George Floyd was murdered. So I absolutely am committed to meeting the demands. I really think it's an unfortunate choice of language because, you know, when they shut down the gas lines a couple of weeks ago, that was based on demands. If you don't do this, then we are going to keep the gas. That's not how we should be operating as a democracy. We have to come together. So that's my response to that question.
Thank you. One more question. It's not a ward specific question, but it's a Are you willing to support North Minneapolis's residents' efforts to hold the Northern Metals facility accountable for their negative environmental impacts in one of Minneapolis's largest Black communities?
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think that's just a North Minneapolis problem. That's a Minneapolis problem. And so absolutely, I mean, there was a letter that was drafted by the 5th Ward City Council member, Jeremiah Ellison. I signed on to that letter in support of holding Northern Metals accountable. And, you know, even more broadly, I am, you know, I've been leading on the effort to imagine or bring into fruition the vision of the East Phillips neighborhood initiative and turn the Roof Depot into an urban farm to minimize air quality. I've been working with Sabanthony Community Center and Excel Energy and Jermaine Staples and others to create a solar energy demonstration project at the Sabanthony Community Center. So environmental justice is at the forefront of my campaign and my efforts. You know, I really am just challenged by the environmental movement that doesn't place environmental justice at the forefront of that movement. And so trying to work within that system to bring these issues to light, but absolutely support the efforts to hold Northern Metals accountable.
Thank you. That's it for questions. We really appreciate you being here, and good luck in your race for DFL endorsement.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you. I know I got a little passionate about the 38th in Chicago situation, but I am very passionate about it and very much willing to work with anyone and everyone who is about healing and bringing our community together and working towards justice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Jenkins.
Have a great day, everyone. Oh, I'm sorry. Was there more?
That's it.
No, I believe that's it for our agenda today. Devin, do you have anything else to add?
I want to say thanks again to everyone. I remember 4 years ago being on stage with you at Sabanthony. Wish we could be in person again, but soon enough. Save the date. May 15th, 2022 is the next city convention at the Minneapolis Convention Center downtown. But until then, we've got our award balloting open till Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. So thanks again, everyone. I'll catch you on all the other awards later today.
Thanks to all the park board candidates as well. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you for hosting us.
You bet. Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.